If you work in TV and you're wondering how the hell you actually make money in this new creator-led economy, listen up. This year, TellyCast is launching 2 major ways to level up your digital-first strategy. First, the TellyCast Digital Bootcamp. 4 intensive training days in central London from the 26th to the 31st of March for producers, executives and development teams who want to understand social video, platform behaviour, monetisation, formats, talent economics and what it really takes to build IP in a digital-first world. This is hands-on, practical, led by digital-first experts and built for people who need answers now. Find out more at courses.telecast.com. And then there's a second edition of How to Make Money in Digital, a 1-day industry summit bringing together the sharpest minds in social video, video podcasting, IP, branded content, and multi-platform digital publishing. Case studies, studios, creators, platforms, the people shaping where this business is going next. It's on April the 21st at 30 Euston Square in London. Get tickets at howto.telecast.com. And here's the key thing. If you book a place on the TellyCast Digital Bootcamp, you get free access to the How to Make Money in Digital event day worth up to £350. Training and front row insight. 2 powerful experiences, 1 clear goal. Helping you thrive in the digital-first production economy. Check out courses.telecast.com and howto.telecast.com or click the links in the episode description. Get ahead in digital in 26 with the TellyCast Digital Bootcamp and How to Make Money in Digital. We'll see you there. Hi and welcome to another episode of TellyCast. This week, I'm speaking with Timothy O from COL Group, one of China's biggest distributors and producers of microdrama. I hope you enjoy the show. So, Timothy, welcome to TellyCast.
Thank you.
Our first guest, I think, from Singapore, which is great to see you here. And you're from COL Group, which is really at the centre of this huge microdrama boom that we've been covering on The Drop and we've been talking about on TellyCast recently as well. So first of all, tell us about your role within COL Group and tell us about COL Group as a business.
So I've been brought on to drive the international expansion of the microdrama beyond the US and China. I think, it's well established that in China, it's really doing very well. It's exceeded the box office revenue. It's kind of setting the scene for what it's going to become, right? And I think that's where, I find it really exciting. So when I got a call and say, Tim, we'd like you to come on board. And, I come from a background where I've used to be a producer, director of films, scripted, non-scripted, and in Sony and in gaming. And then I thought this is really cool because we've come to a place where it's finally digital first, where microdrama's vertical viewing is a priority for companies. So I immediately was really excited, especially when it was working with a company like COL. And, there are many companies out there that are in the microdrama space. And I think one of the things that really made the company really unique is that it's an IP company. So it started 25 years ago being a incubator of IPs. And, so we are the second largest in China, which pretty much, it's a lot of IPs to work with.
Yeah, I can imagine. And did you start from ebooks as well? Was that a central part of your business before? Because I know that's really what's driven this whole microdrama boom. Is that's the IP at the center of it, isn't it? This ebook business.
Yeah. I think you're right. The ebooks, collecting stories from writers from all over the world, China to start with. I think that was how we started. And, the main audiences were audiences that were really reading all these, e-stories online, even subscribing to, these stories through your MMS. And we used to work with telcos to send chapters every day. Really? So it's very similar to the concept of microdramas, right?
So it was a natural progression for COL Group, really, to move into visualized storytelling.
Exactly. And I think the formats evolved, right? We've gone with drama series, films, animation, and it was just a natural transition when it becomes a fully vertical experience. So I do think that, the opportunity of like shorter content has never been maximized. I know we all know that short films exist for the longest time, right? And we never knew how to monetize it. So I think microdrama is an evolution of that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's certainly a booming business, which is a rarity for the content industry, because lots of the content industry has been in decline for the last 5-10 years or so. So it's really refreshing to see something that's really fueling growth across the US. And obviously, is it still in growth in China, this space? Is it still in a growth phase?
It's very mature in China. I think, from the way the content is being consumed, even to like how the IPs are developed, there are very significant IPs that have like sequels, which we don't see them in the Western world yet, or rest of world, if I may say. So I think the maturity of the platform and format allows things to be adapted a lot better, IPs to be more mature. So in China, definitely a lot more mature, but it's growing really quickly everywhere else. I think people are still trying to figure out how to make money with microdramas. I think when we talk about booming, there are two parts to it, right? There is the consumer that's watching it, and then there is the people who pay for it. So the viewership is definitely there. And I think it's just a natural transition for anyone who's been on your mobile phone. You've been watching TikTok, Instagram. It's just a matter of consuming a different kind of content vertically. But in terms of who's paying for it, I think that's where the growth is at. Is the quality of the content good enough for people to start paying and paying more? And how sustainable is that? That's the big question.
And that's really interesting. And we'll come back to that if we may. But let's first of all talk about COL Groups and the apps that you have. So how many apps do you oversee and create, COL Group, globally? I mean, it gives a sense of what scale of the business is.
Sure. So we're the first to launch in China the whole microdrama ecosystem. So we had an app there, and then subsequently within the China space, we become a leading content producer for Hongguo, which is one of the biggest platform right now in China. And outside of China, we incubated Crazy Maple Studio, which obviously has ReelShort, one of the leading platforms in the world.
Yeah, that's one that probably I think most of our listeners and viewers will be aware of, is Crazy Maple Studios in the US. Yeah, so ReelShort, they may have one or two other apps, but that's the main one, isn't it?
Yeah, and then subsequently we launched quite a few others. Like we had UniReel, Zero Plus, and more recently Flareflow, that is one of the fastest growing platform in the US and globally as well. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. We've been going on this, microdrama race and putting a lot of horses out there.
Yeah. and those different apps, are they collections of different types of content for different audiences, or what's the difference between them?
I would say they are not distinct in terms of what the audience they are trying to target. It's really all pretty much the same. But I think the way we do it is that we want to see how, because it's so new, we don't know how it's going to work. And having one method or one go-to-market strategy for one app isn't viable enough. So we have different apps that
So it's a numbers game, but it's the same content often within the different apps.
Exactly. So, if you were to pick between these 10 apps, right, and, we own a few of them, that really helps because we own the collection of application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of different lines in the water to catch the fish.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're responsible for international outside the US and China.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you seeing the most growth outside of those two markets then?
There's a lot of growth in markets like Southeast Asia, Brazil, Japan. I think these markets where people are really, I would say, focused on mobile first. And they've always been struggling with getting pay TV because it's so expensive. So when you start seeing content that's accessible and, of a quality that is to them, exciting, interesting stories, right? I think that really penetrates really well to countries like this.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the point about monetization and apps versus what we're starting to see now is, TikTok launching their own microdrama app and obviously microdrama is also starting to appear on Disney Plus and Google. Google just announced they're going into the microdrama business. Fox investing in Holy Water, for example. I mean, there's all the big players are making different moves into this market. What will that mean for the current ecosystem? Because as you say, it's all micropayment driven.
Yeah.
Surely that is still a barrier to viewing the actual micropayment. Whereas obviously lots of consumers are used to seeing all their content for free on social video platforms like Instagram or any of the others, YouTube, for example. So do you see a natural progression for microdrama appearing on these larger social video platforms and they're becoming funded in different ways? And talk a little bit to that. That'd be interesting to get your viewpoint.
Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop.
Sure, I think there are multiple playbooks to this industry. I think microdrama is how this all started. The way it's going to evolve is how content is being consumed vertically. And every company would have different approach to how they would actually adapt to that. I think it's very clear that, with shorter attention span, people are not watching certain shows as before. And I was quoting this example of a TV show I used to watch on Lifetime. And I was mentioning to this colleague of mine, and she's 22. She was like, I don't know what that is. And, but we all know like what Lifetime is, right? It's like a easy to watch channel. So I think for players like, the networks, even the OTT players are going to continue to look at, so how can I extend the lifespan of my brand, my IPs, and have it to be mobile first so that it could, stay relevant in today's economy where people are watching content vertically. And that playbook is a completely different approach from a company that is invested, or rather backed by a gaming company who wants to go into a microdrama space, who wants to do microtransactions. Essentially, the different drive to how they want to approach vertical content would end up in very different results. So I would imagine like a series on Netflix and Disney Plus would look very different from the dramas that you have on the microdrama apps, because they would probably think, if I were to do a next reiteration of a IP that I have, or to, say, for example, they want to bring back Orange is the New Black. They might go, I might do it on a vertical basis and appeal to this new group of audience that has not seen it. The hook's going to be different because you're not going to make them pay for it. It's part of the subscription.
Yeah, but did you, you talking about that being actually reshot as a new series or reversion purely? Because it wouldn't work, right? It can't work if you just reversion the original content to microdrama. It just doesn't have that hook every 90 seconds, right?
It's like cutting a console game into a mobile game. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, you can't just edit it down. You have to redo the stories. There are some companies that are looking to edit films and edit TV series down, but you get them on Instagram now. Like, you get these summaries of shows for free. So you're not bringing extra value to it. And also with micro series, right? Because it's such a simple story that we're telling, and it's also vertical. And every episode is just 2 minutes. You can't tell 4 stories or 5 stories and subplots in 2 minutes, because by the time you get to the 8th episode, you have to go back to the first character.
Yeah.
So most of the time, you have like a character you're rooting for, and you're following through the character's journey, versus 4 storylines with like 6 subplots. So you can't really do that, and you can't concise all of that into a vertical space. So I would imagine that, whoever who wants to reimagine the IP, they would have to pick something vertical first.
So that could be an individual character story coming out of an IP. You said that
exactly,
like Orange is the New Black. It could be following one character's story after the original series had finished, or something like that. Exactly. Some sort of reimagining.
Exactly. Even if you were to put a dating show, right? It would be very simple. You'll be following this character because you want to know if this person is going to make it.
Yeah.
It's a very simple story. And I always relate it to gaming, right? You have big games that is a console only. And then you have mobile games that are easy to play. You could play anywhere. And my mom is now a gamer because she plays Bejeweled and Candy Crush, right?
Right.
And it's simple. But then these big IPs that we've seen, so even like games like Mario, right? We've played it on a console. It's now also on mobile, but it's done differently. It's done in a more accessible way so that more people could play it. Yeah. So I guess it's really expanding the IPs so that, more people could experience it with shorter attention span and shorter investment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but coming back to my original question in terms of the maturity of the marketplace for a territory like the UK, still relatively new, the microdrama, but do you expect it to be much more driven by micropayments, or do you expect it to be much more driven by revenue generated on social platforms going forward?
I think every culture and every country that I've been at, speaking or talking to different people in terms of the content receptiveness, I think really differs. Specifically to the UK, I think the current content doesn't really sit 100% well with the UK audience. The kind of humor, the overacting.
Let's be honest. It's pretty cheesy. A lot of it.
Is cheesy.
Have you heard of a series of books called Mills and Boon?
Yes, I've heard.
You have.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
so that's the audience will. A lot of our audience in the UK will know that's like it's kind of cozy, cheesy, kind of like love story, romance, and what have you.
Exactly. But it's not camp. And I know, the British humor, they love dry camp humor, which, you don't really get that in the microdrama.
No.
Yeah.
No. So you expect to obviously have a lot more content created natively for the UK market and working within these different genres then?
Definitely. But I do think that, say, for example, in the UK, it would be really driven by a lot of these big players who have very strong IPs that people grew up and familiar with, right? I think in the UK, people are very nostalgic. A lot of, when I talk to like my friends and even people, they would talk about shows that they watched for the last 20 years and they follow very religiously on certain, IPs. So I do think that for things to really move and to move in a big way, these cheesy short stories needs to be married into some of these big IPs. I mean, we're seeing some of these stories in EastEnders and stuff, right? But, how do they take some of these stories from the soaps and traditional stuff that we see on TV, like Naked Attraction, and make it more mobile first?
Well, you would imagine that's the obvious thing with soaps and continuing dramas, just much in the way of telenovelas in Latin markets, they would be the most obvious adaptations and potentially particular story. They could link stories and give different context to different stories which happening within the main show, perhaps. It's interesting that we haven't seen those plays come through from any of the major broadcasters yet.
Not yet. I think they are all interested in it, but the question is the monetization part of it.
Yeah.
Because to really monetize it, you need to build up an ecosystem to do that, right? So you need to have an app that enables that. You need to have brands that are willing to pay for it if you don't have the monetization model. But the question is that brands are already advertising online. They are spending money on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, right? So if the networks really want to capture the advertising dollars and, increase the value of the IP, that's where they need to start thinking. So how can I move this into the space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously soap operas were originally, soap powders originally funded the whole soap opera in the 1950s in the States. So it could be a sort of a full circle moment if you see Ariel or something like this funding a particular, microdrama from Hollyoaks or whatever that might be.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Exactly. So I think I'll be very curious to see how it's being picked up here in I would say in the UK setting, because I do talk to a lot of producers. I think they're trying to figure out how to do it, but it really has to come from someone that wants to drive an ecosystem. So it doesn't work if someone is going to produce 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah.
Because where do they put them? Where do they monetize it?
Yeah.
Because you can get the views, but then nobody's going to pay for it. So
because that's it. Because I suppose if you create first of all, how you distribute it, well, you get it on other, you distribute it. If it's not brand funded, for example, then it would need to go on one of your apps, for example, and that will just sit there with how many your catalogue of probably 10,000 different microdramas,
Yes.
right? So yeah, there needs to be a much more substantial kind of ecosystem. And so what you're over in London, you're doing lots of meetings with presumably lots of the major production groups here. You know, are we still in a learning phase, do you think? Are we still in a learning phase with lots of these businesses they're trying to work out how they can get into this market?
Yes, I think everybody's curious, but I think nobody really wants to take the first step. I also think that, you know, we created a space that is driven by you know, like all this high stakes, high drama content that has a reputation for being, like you said, cheesy. And a lot of IPs, a lot of companies, they don't really want to go into that space. But, you know, like I mentioned, being able to differentiate between the current approach and what the users and viewers are actually watching, which is vertical content, you need to take someone that is really innovative and willing to take that first big risk and big step to show that actually we could create, you know, UK audience-friendly content that doesn't have to be like this, but mobile first. So I do think that, you know, based on the conversations, I think people are exploring, but they are not ready to take the big step.
But to create that ecosystem is a huge investment, right? To create an app and then to create the amount of content. Or you're saying that there could be a business, I mean, it could be COL Group, right?
Yeah.
That creates a, I don't know, microdrama UK app, for example, which would then be the home for what we might see as more appropriate content for UK microdrama consumers. I mean, is that something that you're looking at COL Group?
Definitely. I think we're constantly looking for options and how we want to expand. I think the UK market is a really, really good market. There are really good stories, but like you and I said, that the content that the Brits do love is very different from what everyone else is watching. I mean, there are similarities, but there are certain, like, you know, quirks and storylines, humor points that I don't think it's currently delivering. So I think these partnerships would be a good start for, I would say, the platforms to learn about how this actually would work, for them to figure out a roadmap to be more digital first. Because it doesn't make sense, you know, when you turn on an app, and let's just say the Channel 4 app, right? It's vertical on your phone, and then you have to switch to horizontal to watch the episodes. So the question is, so what is that content? And instead of reinventing it, you know, it would be really interesting if a big player out there would say, I want to do something and I want to do it now because I know that people are watching things vertically.
So let's talk about some of the biggest successes out there. I mean, there've been lots of, you know, amazing success stories. What would you say is the kind of ultimate success story for a microdrama that you've come across that is either in China or in the States or any other? Can you just give us a bit of a case study in terms of, you know, a microdrama that's worked, what the production cost was and what the revenue generated was?
Sure. I'll use an example in China. So there is this IP that we have. It's called From Rex to Rank 1. It's a time traveling show, but set in the past, you know, and the first series had 1 billion views, a $250,000 budget because it's historical. And within a week, we had 1 billion views and people were already asking for a second season. So typically, you know, if today we are in a regular TV network, it would take maybe another year or two to finalize and announce and produce, right? So it took us 2 months to confirm that we're going to go ahead with the second season because we saw the reception. And within 2.5 months, we basically released the next series. And the quality of the show, is really high. You know, it's not like a shot with your phone. So the ability to commission shows that quickly allows us to capture the audience and grow the IP a lot faster than what some traditional shows would take. You know, we wouldn't have to wait for 2 years before the next series drops. You are able to capture the audience a lot quicker. So
I'm going to push you on the revenue then as well. I mean, what sort of revenue would a successful series like that generate from each series?
So a typical series would like I mentioned, would cost around 150 to 200K USD. A good show would actually bring in, like, you know, $19-20 million within 2 weeks. if it's well marketed. This is excluding the marketing fees, obviously, that's involved, which obviously would even out quite a lot, right? So a lot of these budget goes into making sure that the series is on the phone, because the way you discover a microdrama isn't knowing that an actor is in a particular show. You don't see press tours. You don't see trailers dropping before the series happens.
So when you say marketing, what does that actually mean when you say marketing? I mean, when it comes to the microdrama world?
It's literally marketing so that you would see the first few episodes on your Instagram or your TikTok. So we're doing direct marketing. We're putting the first few episodes out there, get you hooked, so that you would download the app to finish watching it. So it's very much using the story to attract you and get you involved right from the get-go, versus showing you a trailer, telling you who's out there, what is the story about. So it's positioning. So not only is it paying for positioning within the actual app that it's going to be viewed on, but it's also other social platforms and actually paying for marketing on other social platforms as well to drive viewers back to it. Okay, downloads.
Yeah. And so the sort of marketing campaigns that you need to create a successful show, are they fairly substantial? I mean, is marketing? I mean, does marketing exceed the production costs, for example?
Definitely. So you could spend up to more than $1 million on a particular show. But the way marketing is being determined is we would put a show up for 2 to 3 days. We would see how the performance is like. We would edit the show if necessary, just so that we know that the hooks are better. We would do thousands of versions of different trailers, episodes and stuff that would go on social media to test and see who actually is paying and watching it. And we would decide how we want to do after 3 days. So we run approximately 400 experiments each month to make sure that the show gets to the right person.
Okay, wow. And most of that, it must be driven by AI, right?
We are using AI, but at the same time, there is also a huge team that works 24/7.
It must be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the way we commission the shows are very different from a TV network, right? So we would look at how the show is performing, and we would actually then look at refining some of these elements. So I'll give you an example. We had this show called 99 Forgiveness. Very simple story about this guy who is a boxer, becoming a champion, ditches his girlfriend. And we released it in the US, and we saw that the audience who watches it are of a certain age group. They're living in certain parts of the US, and they have certain hobbies. So the next series was commissioned within 2 months, and it was called 99 Chances. And it's about this male singer that was signed by a record label and ditches his girlfriend, and the girlfriend became an incredibly popular singer. Similar story, a similar IP that we've worked out, but we use the data to decide what is the next version. How do we more effectively capture the audience? So it's more similar to how a TikToker or an Instagrammer decides a content. You see someone do silly dance, and then the next moment you do the silly dance again and you improve it.
Yep.
Yeah. And tailor.
So it's always about iteration, isn't it? It's about learning, testing and learning, as is, one of the key tenets of the digital first ecosystem. It's about constantly iterating and getting better and closer to your target.
Exactly. Which is why a lot of times, I guess, when we talk to different partners, they're trying to figure out how to do a hook every 2 minutes. There is existing IPs that set themselves up ready for this. It's really hard to write a brand new show and, just imagine 2 minutes later, something's going to happen, and the payoff needs to be good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough for you to pay for it. So the magic in this whole process in making a successful show is how do you take an existing IP that you own and a successful formula that we own, like how an influencer, TikToker would work, right? And finding that balance and synergy. It's the same way as how you would reach to a content producer, right? So when you work with a digital creator, you wouldn't say, do the story this way. You give them a theme, you give them a product, and they would
do it in your own way, your own magic, bring
that
your
creates
own...
the hook. Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So when it comes to vertical video, we can sort of spread it out wider than microdrama. Where do you think the market's going in Western Europe, for example, do you think there's a market for reality? Do you think there's a market for, factual docs, etc.? I mean, the whole way of viewing content, essentially micro episodes. Do you see that carrying over from drama into different genres?
Yes, we are experimenting it. I'll tell you more about it in a bit. But definitely, I think people are craving for more content beyond just the romance tropes, the CEO, billionaire stuff. I do think that it's about, basically understanding where we are with the content. I think different markets react differently. For some markets, they really, really enjoy these simple, silly drama stories. But then there are some markets where they're a bit more sophisticated, where they like to be challenged intellectually. But I think, like I said, right, because of how it's being set up right now, a lot of these big players in the microdrama space are not really willing to push the boundary, to introduce a whole new genre, because it costs a lot to market. And even though it doesn't cost a lot to produce, it does cost a lot to make sure that the show goes into your phones and you start watching it. So it's a work in progress in terms of deciding how to commission, what genres to go into. And the only people that would take the risk are the people who believe in it. And we need more people to believe in vertical and digital first.
Yeah. And so where do you see, you talked about Southern Asia as being a real growth area. I mean, what about Europe then, in terms of different countries within Europe? I mean, are there any early adopters for microdrama in Europe that where we might see that in Spain, for example, or because it has perhaps a bit more of a link with telenovelas than UK. I mean, obviously we have our soap operas here, but slightly different. I mean, which are the markets that are kind of leading in terms of app downloads and app and consumption of microdramas in Europe?
So I'm talking to a couple of national broadcasters and OTT players within Europe. I can't specifically name them because they will
guess if you say the country. Yes, I guess. Yeah.
But they want to be the first in this space. So there are some innovators that are willing to push the boundaries, and they are now like talking serious talks about how to get into this space. There is also a lot of demand in the French-speaking African regions. Mm-hmm. Germany is one market that we were surprised by because we are ranking really high and really well in Germany.
Oh, really?
And I would never think that our content would sit well with the German audiences. But this escapism, right? Sometimes you just want something that's a bit different from what you're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so I was surprised to see Germany on the list. It's like top 5.
Me too. I didn't think that would appeal to them, but there we are. That's just an assumption that's wrong.
I know. But definitely that. So I think that the European markets are very open to it, but like I said, they're trying to figure out how to work this formula out that is sustainable for them.
Yeah. So looking ahead then in terms of the whole vertical video space, it feels like there are a number of major players that are inching towards this space. And, the more time goes on, the more desperate they are because they're losing viewers, right? And they're losing younger viewers as well in particular. So these are the sort of pressures that they have that are maybe pushing them towards experimenting more and actually jumping in to the microdrama space. What do you think, if you were to look ahead 5 years, which is a long time, I realise, or maybe 2 years, let's say 2 years, that's probably more realistic, isn't it? Into the whole vertical video space, what are you projecting at COL Group? What do you look when you're looking at these markets that you're responsible for? Mm-hmm. What change are we going to see in those 2 years?
First and foremost, I think TikTok is going to be a major player within the space, and they already own the vertical viewing experience with Meta. So a transition in how TikTok would adopt the microdrama, which they already are, and how they've done it in China. I mean, not TikTok, but the ByteDance has done it in China, where they have a really very strong dominance over the whole market space. So it is an easier transition for an audience watching a dance video and then swiping to a microdrama than a Netflix audience that would swipe into a microdrama.
Yes.
So TikTok would be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And then there would also be very regional partners and regional apps where TikTok would not be able to reach because there are IPs that are owned by, say, ITV, Channel 4 in the UK, where, TikTok would have to then collaborate. But then these IP owners would then have to decide, do I want to own this audience or do I want to share it with a TikTok per se? And then there are all these other microdrama apps that are out there, and it would be the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
There would be a few that would really stick around, but because they've successfully built a following, they've also found a distinction. And I casually was talking to another top platform that it's not China-backed, and there's not many, so it's easy to get to that. And I said, if you were to remove the logos from the shows, you can't tell who is it from. So it's going to be a race of who is going to be able to create IPs that is vertical first and that would actually be of a value that would grow, and not just an IP that would stay for 2 weeks because people have watched it and then we need to reinvent something again. So it's going to be a race of who is going to create the major IP that people will come back for. Because I don't think...
This is the premium microdramas we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So that premium microdrama, premium IP would actually come from one of these big players. I would say an original. And these big players, like ourselves, right, would have to look at collaborating with existing IP owners who give a new, fresh breath of air and bring it to new audiences.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting time. I think the next 2 years, there'll be a lot of progression and changes. There'll be incorporation into e-commerce too. Yeah. Where people could buy stuff after watching the content. I know a lot of e-commerce platforms, even like, transport apps, are looking at it because people would think, now they're waiting. So let's feed them something to watch while they can. And then thirdly, branded content is what is going to come, where brands are going to be more and more involved in how to utilize microdrama content to tell stories. And we're not seeing much of that. We're seeing a few.
You see, for P&G Studios recently invested into their own microdrama, didn't they? They
did. And we also have a couple of branded content series that's coming out that is less obvious and in your face. Yeah. Because everybody knows that it's P&G is doing something. Yeah. But a good branded content would be so subtle that you don't even know they're there. Yes. So it's going to get to a point where, it's not a new thing that branded content is going to be at. You don't have to shout about it. Yeah. So I think that within 2 years, we're going to get to that space.
Yeah. 2 years, maybe we'll see Peaky Blinders, the microdrama.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. That's the sort of thing that will move the needle, won't it?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
So Timothy, let's talk about your story of the week then. Tell us which is a story that you've identified as an interesting content in this industry story in the last 7 days.
So, I've met all kinds of people within the industry in the last 1 year. People have told me that it's not TV. Like microdrama, vertical is just, something that you have on your phone. We're not in the same panel. We're not in the same room. So I've been figuring out how to navigate this, and in the last couple of months, and we announced it last week, where we will be doing the first ever reality series that's adapted from a renowned IP that's existed for 12 years. It's been on Netflix, it's been on IT, it's been on major platforms. And for the first time ever, we're going to take an IP, not just even a reality, and shoot it just pure vertically. We're not even discussing, let's do a horizontal series for TV and then we do a vertical version. So it's essentially pivoting completely.
So what is this series then? Tell us more about it.
It's called Supermodel Me. So it's ran for 6 seasons and had a really good run. And, I work with Refinery Media, which is the owner of the IP, to come up with this concept of how do we give new audiences that accessibility to this show. And it's quite interesting because, traditionally you would think that an IP owner would be like, I want the value to be premium. I want it to be on a premium series, but choosing to put eyeballs and attention span and willingness to watch something on TikTok and vertical first is a big move, and it would signal the first for many other big IPs to come on this bandwagon. Sorry. So I'm quite excited to see how this is going to have that effect where other people are going to go, oh, so I can do this now.
Yeah.
So after I announced it, I've got many calls saying, can we do this and do it vertically too? Yeah. So I mean, that's why.
So you've chosen your own story of the week, but that's fine. But that's all right. But that's really because that's super relevant for our conversation. That's really interesting. But yeah, like you say, sometimes you need the first movers in the marketplace to create a new trend or a new movement in this sort of space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Timothy, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed meeting you.
Yes.
And congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
I'm sure, and I hope we'll see you at some of our TellyCast events in the coming months. It'd be great to hear a little bit more. But for the time being, thank you for coming on TellyCast. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.